Hi, I'm Annie. I'm filming this on St. Patrick's Day. It's been a pretty lucky day so far. I'm feeling pretty good. Today I want to talk about beginner's mind. Beginner's mind has been on my mind lately. So this is a concept that comes from Zen Buddhism, and I'll read directly from Wikipedia. It refers to having an attitude of openness, eagerness, and lack of preconceptions when studying a subject, even when studying at an advanced level, just as a beginner would. I've been thinking about beginner's mind because one of my goals for 2021 was to compose more music, to write more songs like I used to do when I was younger. I've just noticed that as I've gotten older, I'm 44 now, the part of my brain that creates music has become kind of calcified. It just doesn't flow the way it used to, doesn't feel as flexible. So I was thinking back to my youth when I used to write songs and just remembering how that felt and wondering what is different. How can I shake things up to get back to that point where it feels freer and more flexible? My memory goes way, way back. And so I was thinking about a time when I was 3 or 4 years old. It's the earliest memory that I have of writing my first song. I know that I was 3 or 4 years old because I remember the house that I was living in at the time. Just the other day, I was describing this house to my mom. I can describe the complete layout of the house, the architecture, where every room was, how they were connected, the upstairs, the downstairs, the living room, the den, the kitchen, the laundry room, backyard, front yard. I remember that it was a neighborhood with no sidewalks, and she was pretty amazed that I could remember the house in such detail, but I think that's just masculine SI. So anyway, the first song I ever wrote. I didn't exactly write the melody because it was to the melody of You Are My Sunshine, but it was with new words. But I do remember other times in my childhood swinging on my swing set in my backyard, just inventing completely new melodies. And I also remember more often hearing layers in songs. So it was more like hearing an entire symphony, hearing melodies and counter melodies in my head. Whereas now when I write a song, I just can't imagine as many parts for some reason. I think it's just a change that has come with old age. So I was in my bedroom in this old house, 3 or 4 years old, and I was pretending to sweep with a little toy broom that I had. It's like a little Annie-sized broom. The reason that I say I was pretending to sweep is because I remember distinctly that there was carpet in the bedroom, so it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to sweep carpet. And I wrote this song to my broom because I loved this little broom and I loved doing chores. I think it was the first time I really noticed that I loved doing chores. And I started singing, "You are my broom, my only broom. You make me happy when skies are gray," and so on. I won't put you through the whole song. You can imagine it. I was just singing a love song to my broom. And that's the first time I can remember writing a song, even though I didn't really write the melody. I just changed the words. So there's a lot to unpack there. That scene kind of encapsulates my whole personality type. So first of all, doing chores and loving chores and being comforted by chores is kind of an SI thing to do. Chores are comforting because they make me feel in control. And sometimes with my double activated masculine SI fourth, I tend to overwork SI in order to feel more in control. Doing chores reduces anxiety because it makes me feel like I'm in control of the chaos. I was also literally singing a love song to an object, which is kind of an observer thing to do. I've always noticed objects, felt connected to them, which is kind of an SI thing, to feel personally connected to objects. I also love chores and started loving chores from a very early age because it opens up a space for sleep processing. So a lot of times when I'm doing chores, it's either a very NE thing where I'm brainstorming and thinking of possibilities, letting my imagination run wild, and that feels really good. I get kind of a chemical high from brainstorming in that way. Or I use that space to sleep process, to kind of integrate everything that I've consumed, assimilating my process quietly to myself. And there's also this component of FI amusing myself. I was in my room singing kind of to myself, myself to my broom just for my own amusement. There was no one watching, and I knew that there was no one watching, and it wasn't about an audience. I hardly ever think about audience when I write a song or a short story or even these videos. I mean, honestly, I could think about the audience more, like use a little bit more TE. What do the people really want to hear? My art is just extremely self-focused. I'm sure you can tell from my videos. I'm just talking about myself, and I think a lot of people would find that embarrassing. Like my partner, maybe has some kind of demon DI, because I think he feels like it's really embarrassing and shameful to sleep process. Maybe it's a demon sleep thing. He thinks that it's sort of embarrassing to process your own experience and to think about how you think. Like metacognition is embarrassing to him, to think about how you think or think about what you feel. He just finds it all really self-indulgent. And it's kind of my thing. It's kind of like what I do all day long, probably to a fault. I could stand to be a little bit more like him. So anyway, I just feel like my entire type is sort of encapsulated in that scene of me being alone, singing to my broom, pretending to sweep in my room. Anyway, back to beginner's mind. I remember swinging on my swing set in the backyard and music would just come out of me. I could hear huge, symphonies in my head, and I would sing just on the spot, very play energy, making things up in the moment. It was all just really fluid and free. It felt fresh and good. And I don't know if the music was any good. It just felt good. So here I am 40 years later, and music just doesn't feel as fresh and fluid as it used to. And I think it does have something to do with just aging and, cognitive function changes as you get older, and you do get kind of set in your ways and things become calcified. Music is all about intervals, and maybe I am kind of like gravitating to the same intervals over and over in kind of a stale way, and it just doesn't feel inventive the way that it used to. So I was wondering, how can I find my way back to beginner's mind? I was thinking almost like I need to just pick up a completely different instrument. I play the guitar, but maybe if I get a cello or a flute or something, then it'll like shake things up and shake up my brain and get me to that state of creating something fresh. So I bought a MIDI recorder. So here it is. It's just like an electronic synthesizer that plugs into my computer, and I can use it with GarageBand. The synthesizer mimics the sounds of like hundreds of instruments. So I can do percussion, deep percussion, can do like marimbas. I'm not really into marimbas, but just like different percussive instruments. There's really deep drums, like the big, like taiko drums, all kinds of stuff. Organs, cello, violin, string quartets, and a lot of like electronic stuff. And you can do like beats and loops. And learning GarageBand this year has really broadened my horizons musically. So I was hoping that getting this synthesizer would give me that beginner's mind experience. I've been playing with it for about a week. It worked. I actually have had that feeling of freshness. Another thing that I found that is happening is that I'm starting to think in layers again. So when I'm thinking of different melodies and songs, I'm also hearing counter melodies and hearing percussion. This just hasn't happened to me in years and years. Getting this synthesizer did exactly what I wanted it to do. And it was so cheap. I just love this revolution that the internet has brought about, that anybody, regular people in their homes, can be experts. An amateur can use expert tools. As electronics are getting better and better, all you have to do is look it up on YouTube, and we have at our fingertips expert tools. Now, a lot of those tools just come standard on your computer. And I think this has intensified even more in the pandemic, that people have more time to be creative. Some of them, I know, like some people have really difficult situations and they don't necessarily have more time, but you get something like Billie Eilish, creating her amazing music, which I love. I know that could be an unpopular opinion, but I really love Billie Eilish. But just to think that she just wrote these songs in her bedroom with her brother, and they used some equipment, similar to this MIDI player, probably not this exact one. And her brother Phineas is a genius. So like, I know nothing nothing about producing. I'm just like starting from zero. The technology and the sharing of information through the internet and through the YouTube just makes this stuff possible for regular people. And it's really exciting that because this stuff is so popular that it's really inexpensive. Like this MIDI player was like $100. That might seem like a lot to some people, but for me, when I think about the hours and hours of enjoyment and the potential of music making for $100, it's like better to spend $100 on that than crack cocaine, right? It's a pretty healthy thing to spend money on. So another thing that I do frequently is buy online courses. There's just a few different companies that do this, but like Udemy is one of them. So if there's something that I want to learn or understand better, I'll actually look on there and see if there's a course for sale. And I never ever pay full price. If you wait until there's a holiday, the stuff will go on sale. They'll sell courses that are like $130, but anytime it's like Easter or Mother's Day or St. Patrick's Day, there's a sale and you can get these courses for $11.99. And so I always keep an eye on the courses and buy one or two on each holiday. So St. Patrick's Day was this week and I got a pretty comprehensive course on using GarageBand just because there's a lot I don't know. It's a pretty intuitive program, but there's just little tips and tricks. And another course that I got was a course on composing ambient music. I love really big atmospheric ambient music and I listen to a lot of it because I'm a massage therapist. So I want to listen to this course, but I'm also aware of being really careful how much I learn because I really don't have a lot of music theory in my head. I don't really even know how to read music. I think there can be an advantage to not knowing that stuff because it kind of gives you more of a beginner's mind. You know, you don't know so much that it makes you stifled and stale. Although, I don't know, maybe I need to learn more of it. Maybe I would be a better musician if I really learned all that stuff. That's a really tough call. But the way that I know music is as intervals that I feel in my body. So it has nothing to do with being able to read music or like knowing scales or anything like that. So this has been such a positive experience, actually wanting to get back to more of a beginner's mind and thinking of a way to actually make that happen. And I realized that I can apply it to other things in my life. I'm actually really way too regimented. I'm just really regimented and uptight about my schedule and my daily activities. But I really see the potential here to get back to beginner's mind, fresher creativity by mixing things up and just letting some of those routines go. And I think even SE exploration is something that I really neglect. You know, some people are really adventurous in an extroverted way, wanting to travel, wanting to go new places. I have this kind of OI rigid part of myself, this masculine SI that's so regimented that I really don't like to go to new places because I can't control all the possibilities. It's just really hard for me to step outside of my routine. At the same time, I do appreciate that going to new places really can stimulate a lot of new creativity. I remember I went to this high school in Sedona, Arizona when I was from like 92 to 96. So every year we had a couple of weeks that was devoted to field trips. And there was stuff like going to take care of sea turtles in Baja and hiking, bouldering. That was something that I did, bouldering in Baja, scuba diving in Belize, hiking in the Grand Canyon. And we also planted fruit trees on the Navajo reservation. We got to camp down in Canyon de Chelly, which is really special because not everyone gets to camp down there. I went to the Navajo reservation a couple of times because I really enjoyed that. Backpacking in the Grand Canyon, a big, long, really intense trip with a heavy backpack and just kind of living down in the Grand Canyon for 10 days or something like that. So that's all like really, SE adventure. It is good for me. And I remember what it did for me in my past. It's outside of my comfort zone, but it shakes things up in a way that gives me more creativity. And so I could probably stand to do a little bit more of that. And I think I've sort of hid behind this truth, it's really true, that my adventures are internal. So I feel just as adventurous as like a lead SE and, someone that loves to travel, except that I feel like those adventures are sort of inside. It's about the concepts that I'm learning and how I'm integrating that information and internalizing it in what I'm learning. So I am adventurous, but it's kind of a cop-out to say that because I'm also really rigid when it comes to leaving my physical location and stepping outside of my daily routine. So I'm just kind of appreciating beginner's mind and thinking maybe I should push myself in other areas and apply this concept to more things in my life. So that's it for now. I hope you're having a lucky week.